Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Adam Dorsay, a psychologist in Silicon Valley and the host of SuperPsyched, a podcast dedicated to supercharging your life. Each episode contains fun, high-quality interviews with experts looking at psychology from all angles. SuperPsyched is your tool to get more of what you want in your life and less of what you don't. I remember 2003 when the first episode of the reality TV show The Bachelor came out. I was hooked for the first few seasons of both The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. And then I stopped for more than 20 years until The Golden Bachelor made an appearance. And when The Golden Bachelorette came out, I watched that too. I was struck by the depth of the episodes. There was so much sharing and so much vulnerability in each of the Golden series of episodes. And when I noticed that Keith, one of the contestants on The Golden Bachelorette, was from my hometown, San Jose, I knew I needed to find a way to get him on the podcast. Thankfully, even though San Jose is the 10th largest city in the country, it's a small town, and we knew lots of people in common. That is how I got to interview a man who describes himself as a girl dad, but who is also known as Keith Gordon. Keith made it through multiple rose ceremonies, but ultimately, another worthy fella won the heart of Joan, the Golden Bachelorette. We talk about his experience of being on the Golden Bachelorette, as well as the friendships that emerged amongst his fellow contestants. I'm sure you'll find this a captivating interview, as I did. So listen in as Keith and I talk about being a contestant on the Golden Bachelorette. Keith Gordon, welcome to SuperPsyched.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun today.
Oh my goodness. And I loved this season. I've seen a few Bachelor, Bachelorette, Golden Bachelor, and of course now Golden Bachelorette seasons. And I even mention it in my book because it's, in many ways, for a psychologist, it's a social psychology experiment. It's unbelievable what you see transpire.
Yeah.
And this may have been, for me, the sweetest of any of the Bachelor Bachelorettes, because the people appeared to be such kind people.
Everything you saw was genuine. I mean, all the guys got along. There wasn't one guy on the show that had a bad heart. Everybody's awesome. We still stay in touch, all of us. I mean, we've got, the one big thread. I've got 2 or 3 small text threads with guys. I just talked with Mark yesterday afternoon. I gave him a call. Dan called me 2 days ago. Phone call's a lot better than text. You can randomly throw stuff out. Gary is practicing golf for a tournament that we're in a couple weeks, and he's texting pictures of beautiful sunshine and golfing. But we stay in touch as much as we can. Everybody really gets along with everybody.
Oh, dude, that's the best. So before we even get into the whole series, it's the obvious question I have to ask. How and why, and did you get into it? What is the driver?
So I've been watching the show for 20 years. I mean, Krista and Ryan are my favorite. I mean, I even remember scenes from that show. In fact, even on the show, Jordan would call me fanboy every now and then because I knew so much about the show or had seen so much of the past shows. So I had tried to get a friend of mine. She was 26 at the time, and I tried to get her to sign up for the Bachelor Bachelorette series. I thought she'd be great for it, and she just never did. And all of a sudden, the Golden Bachelor came out, and she was like, you need to sign up for this. So I looked it up, and it said you had to be 65 at the time. So I kind of blew it off. And then when it actually aired, the Golden Bachelor, when it aired, I saw a lot of the women who were 60. So I decided just to go and fill out an application. It was like the last episode of the Golden Bachelor. I was at a friend's house. We were doing a watch party. I left that night. I opened up my computer, popped a bottle of wine, and filled out an application for the Golden Bachelorette. And here I am. That was November of 2023 is when I filled that out. I think I was the only guy on the show also that actually filled out his own application. Most of the guys, either their daughters, friends had filled out the applications for him or forced him to do it. I was full all in on it.
It's so great. I remember Charles L. had his daughters filled it out.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody else, it seemed, was the same. So what was it like when you found out you were in? Were you excited? Were you scared?
So excited. From the time that I started the interview process, it was like a 6-month process, all the interviews that you go through. But I wasn't nervous at all. I was so excited. I talked to my buds about it, that I was going to do it. There were bets whether I'd actually make it or not. But right when I made it, all of a sudden the reality hits that you're going to be on this. And so then it becomes a little nerve-wracking. Also, I had to pack for it. Did I have the clothes for it? What was it really going to be like? You're uprooting your life for, I don't know how many weeks it's going to be. It could be 1 week. It could be a lot longer, 4 or 5 weeks. So it was just nerve-wracking, the not knowing portion after you were selected, because all of the excitement builds and then all of a sudden you're like, yes. And then it's like, oh, yeah, now what?
I was wondering how in the world you even pack for such a thing, because you needed to have suits for the multiple rose ceremonies, and they needed to be different suits from what I could tell.
So I think it's better for guys. When I watch some of the, like with all the women that are on there and they have to bring dresses, they share dresses and they pass them back and forth. But for me, I had 2 suits and a blazer, but then I had different colored shirts and different colored ties. You can mix and match.
I see.
So it's easier for a guy, I think. But yeah, I'd watched the show for so long. I kind of knew what to plan for. And I had boots just in case I was on the horseback riding date. I was all ready for a couple of the dates in case it happened. But it was nerve-wracking. But I think once you just embrace it, that was the calming thing. I think right when I embraced it, talked to my daughters, they were all excited for me. And then it just calmed me down and I was just ready to go.
Just to go back actually to one piece of content I need to ask you about, the vetting process. What were some of the fiery hoops you had to jump through in order to make it?
I don't know that it's fiery hoops that you have to jump through. It's just, there's a casting agency. It's kind of like a recruiter. They're looking for the right people for the show. And then you finally get to the producers. I mean, they vet your background. They want to make sure that the people that they get on the show are good people too. I mean, so you have to go through that. But it's just Zoom call after Zoom call that you would just get on. Different people. And you think, okay, that was the last one. That you're like, nah, you're probably going to have a couple more if you continue on. Some of them were as short as, they'd say, 15 minutes, or some were close to an hour. So it just depends on who you were talking to, what they were looking for. And it's almost like a job interview at times. This was not a job that you're going to do, but it was definitely an interview process that, are you showing your best foot forward? Show your personality, your energy. Are you really into this process or not? I don't know exactly, but that's what I'd be looking for if I was on their end.
And then you decide how you're going to make your entrance. And you made one of the best entrances I've ever seen. It was so epic and so funny and so you, from what I could tell. You show up in a beach car, basically.
Yeah. It wasn't 100% my idea for sure, but it all came together perfectly. When I thought, okay, station wagon, let's go in. I thought it was going to be a real station wagon. And it was this miniature Pinto station wagon. I mean, it was tiny. So I go to practice and get in it and get out of it. I'm going like, oh my gosh, I hope I can even get it out of this thing once I drive it in. So I drove it up and you're nervous. And I think the one thing is, I kept telling myself, Keith, just be yourself. Just be, I guess, is what I'd say. So I just got out of the car. Jesse came up to me afterwards. He's like, it was just like this big offensive lineman. It was just arms and legs. And all of a sudden, the 6'5" dude just gets out of this little tiny clown car. I just tried to remain calm. And when I look back on it, I was a lot more calm or it looked like I was a lot more calm than what was probably happening on the inside, because the nerves are just there. You're meeting Joan for the first time. She looks beautiful. She's been standing there, the lights, everything's golden. And you get out of this car and you have no idea if she's going to like it or not. And you're just like, hey there, how you doing?
And she was stunning. I mean,
oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the number of times my wife was saying, oh my God, she's so beautiful. And she was. Yeah. And so that can make a man a little bit tongue-tied.
Well, I brought her to the car and I had it all planned out that I wanted her to sit on the hood. And I thought, well, am I going to have to pick her up and pop her up on top of the hood? She just like bounced right up, sat down on it. And we just started talking and she made it easy for me as well. The whole show throughout it, and all the guys will say this, whenever we were on a date, she remembered tidbits about you, your kids' names, where you were from, your conversation from last time. And here she is with 20 guys and she can remember all this stuff. right then when I got out and when we first started talking, she just made it a conversation instead of me trying to have memorized lines in my head and trying to spout out something that might be catchy, or you're trying to catch her eye, but you also want to make it natural as possible.
100%. And boy, did they choose the right person. I mean, not only was she physically gorgeous, but she had emotional intelligence and kindness, and she was the whole package. So, I mean, just like, exactly. Wow is all I can say is good on.
Chalk, and Chalk was the right guy. We talked about it even after his first one. It was like, dude, we're just in the coattails right now. But, Chalk is an awesome guy. He ended up with a beautiful woman, and she ended up with an awesome dude.
I could not agree more. I mean, of course, I was cheering for you. Got to go for the local boy. Yeah. But, when she ended up with Chalk, it was just so moving. And I loved at the end where they had all those takes of him saying, I'm crazy about her. I'm crazy about her. You could tell that he was really in it to win it. And yes. I agree with you. It did have a very satisfying conclusion. Let's get into the idea of the rose ceremony, this dreaded moment where you could be rejected. Now, one of the interesting things, you may know this or may not know this, but when humans face rejection and we are under neuroimaging, the same parts of our brain that experience physical pain are coming to the fore when we are experiencing rejection. Rejection feels very much like physical pain in terms of the brain's response to the stimulus. And so one of the things we shy away from is being rejected. And the rose ceremony, there's a really good chance you're not getting a rose. And that is tantamount to rejection, no matter how you slice it.
Yes.
There's so many euphemisms that we can use. Like, well, I don't think we're a match, which is true. And it's not just euphemistic, but internally, the feeling, the perception of not being chosen is painful. So what was it like standing and waiting? Am I or am I not going to get a rose?
It was really, I think it was at the fourth week, the fourth episode. I mean, that's when I had my meltdown on a little time with her. And that was the one moment where I thought to myself, I'm not getting a rose. And it was torture. And I think I got the last rose. I think I
remember that.
And I just sat there and I'm like, because I told all the guys how bad I'd done. And I'm just sitting there, and it's my heart always raced at every single rose ceremony. Your heart is always going faster. You're looking around. The first thing you do is you count how many roses. You're trying to keep your brain as active as possible and thinking of all the positives about, okay, there's 11 of us here. There's 7 roses, 4 going home. Oh my gosh, who did I talk to this week? Who had bad dates? Who had good dates? And you're adding up. So your heart is going, definitely it's like you've been on a big hike or something. You're not sweating, but you're hike. And then you're in your head a lot of times. I was always trying to think about the positives I did, but it always came back to what happened during the week that was negative. Did I not get enough time with her? When I had my 5 minutes or 15 minutes with Joan, did I say something wrong? Did I offend her? Did I forget something? Did I forget to say something? So you're always thinking on the negative instead of the positives that you did, because maybe to your point, it's a negative situation there. You want the rose, but at one point, there's going to be a time where either you went all the way through or you're not going to get a rose, and it is rejection. I remember walking out that it was the time that I didn't get a rose. I kind of knew that I was already friend zoned at that point. And so I kind of was resolved to walking out. I was okay with it. And then I walked out the door of the mansion and it hit me. It was like, she dumped me. She didn't give me the rose. And that's when it hit me. It didn't hit me right when I didn't get the rose. It hit me about 5-10 minutes later as I was walking out of the mansion and going to the car to drive away, that it hit me. It was like, wow, what could I have done more? What could I have done better to continue on? And those are the kind of things that go through your mind.
Absolutely. The stages of grief and just that, oh my God, denial, that's not happening. Anger, like, why did she choose me? And bargaining, like, what could I have done differently? And maybe depression, like, oh my gosh, I suck. And then acceptance.
And then you're comparing yourself to each of the other guys. And I've talked to you before a little bit about this, but to me, it wasn't a competition against the other guys, because you just put your best foot forward and you're hoping that she chooses you. And it's really a contest against your ego. Your ego says you should be picked. And then when you're not picked, it really hits your ego. But as I walked out the door, there were 4 guys left. She let go. There were 7 of us. 3 got let go. And there were 4 guys going to hometowns. And my brain goes, hold it. She picked him over me. He has what over me? I'm better than him. That's where your ego really kicks in to Maybe it's try to save yourself or to prop you up or to make you not feel so bad about not being selected.
Interesting about anger in and of itself as an emotion is it's often the result of the perception or the reality of an injustice. So there's this part of you that's like, this isn't just. Like, how dare she?
Oh, some guys were really like, when they got married, they couldn't believe it at all. They thought either their date or whatever. And again, we all talked about it. And it's like, guys, it just didn't work out between the two of you. It's not a rejection in the normal type of rejection of the real world. It's a different, where you've put all this time and energy into just one person. There's 20 of us at first, and now there are 11 of us. And so don't feel rejected. Somebody has to go home at the end of the day, and there's only going to be one. The right person is going to end up there. The other thing we talked about, as all the guys were there too, is there were 7 of us sitting around. If there were 7 of us dating this same one woman, we would hate each other. We'd be going like, dude, wait, why are you dating that guy? No, I want you only for me. But we were friends and we were rooting for each other. We were hoping that you had good dates. It was the weirdest dating scenario because in real life, if the gal you're going out with and have had a date and she's going out with maybe 1 or 2 other guys, you're hoping those dates are failing. But in this situation, the bond that the guys had, we were rooting for each of us to have good dates with her.
Genuinely?
Genuinely. Yeah.
Because it was hard to tell from the viewer perspective, like, is this putting on a good face or do they actually mean it?
No, we actually meant it. I would say that Chalk said it in one of his interviews that they aired. It was like he was rooting for the guys, but internally he was like, gosh, I hope he goes home.
I loved it when he said that.
Yeah. Yeah. So internally you might be thinking something different, but outwardly everybody supported everybody. It was definitely genuine for sure. I mean, we've talked about it. I was just at a Kansas City Chiefs game with Chalk and Gil and Jordan.
No way.
Yeah. So we went down there early, about a month or 2 ago. Again, we all like each other. We're all rooting for each other in life, which is a really cool thing.
And we're going to get into the friendships in a minute. But before we do that, gosh, this is so cool to be talking with you, Keith. I've just really been wanting to have this conversation and I'm so delighted that this is actually happening. What was it like to live in the mansion?
So I went back to my roots of my fraternity. Yeah, because at your fraternity, you've got 50, 60 guys all living in the same house. We had different rooms, of course. Well, here we had different rooms. I was in the master at the mansion. We had 9 guys in this room.
Wow.
I didn't mind it at all. It was just like going to camp, I guess. And since we all liked everybody, I don't think anybody really hated it per se. It was different for some guys, but because some of them hadn't lived in fraternities or hadn't had roommates, as many roommates as this in college. But I just went back to my college days. And
yeah, but you're a grown man.
The house was awesome. The house was big enough for everybody. If you wanted some alone time, guys would go off, and there were so many places you could go and journal, go take a nap. There were places we all congregated as well and just talked and just sat around. And the house was large and nice. It was a sweet spot.
On the days that you weren't going out on a date or doing something, was there like an agenda? Was there things that were going on? I know you were mic'd.
The whole time you're there, there's cameras around. And that's one thing I always try to just forget about. You just try to live your life and be yourself and don't even worry about the cameras or what's going on. Yeah, they would plan some things. There were times just to keep our minds busy. We had games that we could play or that they would do for us. We made beads for our daughters one day, bead bracelets, several of us. There were a lot of girl dads on the show. I mean, Mark had 3 daughters, Greg, 2 daughters, Jordan, 3 daughters, me, 3 daughters. I mean, there were so many girl dads on this show. But we sat around one day and just made bracelets for our daughters. And then Guy and Jonathan and I, we just got putters and played mini golf around the house one day and threw football in the pool, when you're down. And then a lot of the conversation is just always going back to going, is there a rose ceremony that night? The one thing we all had in common was the show and Joan and our goals. And so we talked about that. But as you sit around and you can only talk about that for so much, then you start talking about each other's lives too. So it was almost like a therapy camp as well. We talked about it after the show. The guys were like, we all grew. It was like we just used each other as sounding boards and good things and bad things in our life, where we were in our life, what we wanted out, goals out of our life. So that's basically what we did. Just hung out and just talked. And
it feels like a retreat from life in the best of ways. There's certain things that I would love to import from that experience, because I think that all humans need this, but men in particular are so lonely and they don't talk about it because it seems unmanly. And we're supposed to be, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, independent. I don't need nobody. People who need people are the luckiest people. Are you kidding me? I'm a man. And yet men need people. I specialize in working with men. And so I know this, but I'm thinking about the friendships that evolved and the places you could go in terms of talking. And it sounds like there were real conversations that were healing, as you said.
I think it was Jordan who suggested it one time. He's like, he goes, why don't we have a business on the side after we get out of here where we just do men's rooms and we just take away all electronics, no phones, no computers, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. And you've got a week or 2-week camp for men to sit around and just talk and get to know each other. The one thing I found out about this, I've been very lucky in my life. I've got a great friend group of guys that we talk. I've got great friends that each one is different. I'll use one for when I need support. And then I've got another one who makes fun of the situation so that there's levity in life. And I've told all my guy friends, women sit around and they talk about their problems or they talk about where they're going. Guys don't talk about their problems. Like you just said, they keep it internal. And when we're sitting around at the mansion, all the guys, we were just very vulnerable to each other and just talking about, again, to go back, a lot of the guys did not have good guy friend groups. And they were like, this is my guy friend group. These are the guys that I can talk with, share with, get support from, get recommendations, get advice. That's what I was looking for. But they can get advice from all these guys. And we all come from different lifestyles. But at the end of the day, we're all fathers. We've all been married at least once. And how we got to be single, that was different. Mm-hmm. But everybody got to share their experiences with each other and we learned from each other.
And on average, guys seem to talk, at least in my experience, about one of 3 topics because they're very safe. We talk about sports, tech, and politics. Those are the places we go. And if you think about it, when you drive away after just talking about that, it feels rather empty. Yep. I have this test that I use with my clients and I say, how do you feel when you drive away from an interaction? Do you feel taller? Do you feel better? Yep. Do you feel heard? Was it a good use of your time? Or do you feel kind of depleted? Do they just talk about themselves or do you guys just talk about nothing? And you want to drive away more often than not feeling like, wow, that was amazing. That was a good use of my time. I spoke about real stuff. And I saw Charles L. talk with Guy about one of the most vulnerable things in his life about his wife's death. And thankfully, Guy had an MD and was able to explain something that was so healing to Charles L. I think Charles L. may have been one of the fan favorites. He was just such a good...
the fan favorite.
He was the fan favorite. I was totally in love with this guy. There was nobody amongst the guys who bugged me one iota. I liked all of them. It was a nice representation of different walks of masculinity. But that moment where Guy basically says, listen, Charles, this is what happened. Yeah. And Charles looks at him and he starts crying and saying, I can't thank you enough. And I'm guessing that there were many such moments that were not caught on film where somebody validated something else for another guy. Yeah. And it was
Mark
really
on the
healing.
Show, there was one point where Mark saw the hummingbirds and he was talking to Pascal and Jordan, but he was still unsure of himself. When he got on the show, he was still unsure if he really wanted to date. And seeing the hummingbird and talking to Pascal and Jordan just really opened him up to go, this is what I need to do. I need to move on. Whether it's with Joan or not Joan, he knew he needed to move on and start dating and building a new life with somebody else. I mean, those are the things that, I think Charles got validation that it was nothing that he could have done to help save his wife. There were lots of moments like that on the show, and they're still happening outside of the show too. I mean, we all text, and text is so bland, and you can text one-on-one. But my big thing is I like picking up the phone and I call guys. Like yesterday, I called Mark yesterday. I called Jordan last week, and talking and words and hearing the emotions behind the words of where you're at. Guys are going, who are you dating? Are you dating? How are your family? I was getting lots of calls because my daughter lives in LA and they wanted to make sure that she was okay, which is a great thing. That's how close we are. Everybody knows about their families and where they are and are they safe or not. So it wasn't just talking about our emotions and dating when we wrote in the guides, but it was about how we got to where we were and who we are and who we want to be. There was a lot of that discussion going on.
It's so wonderful to hear this. Even though you didn't get the romantic love that you perhaps were going for initially, you got brotherly love in a real sustainable way. And I agree with you, by the way, it's like a food chain in terms of ways we communicate. On the very, very bottom, it's a like on Facebook. Then one step up is texting or messaging.
Yeah.
And a step up from that substantially is a phone call because you can hear the voice. I guess below that would be an email, but a phone call. I'm of that generation. Stevie Wonder said, I just called to say I love you. Well, usually we think that if we're going to make a phone call, there has to be a really big reason. And I constantly am trying to dispel that myth and say, no, you don't have to have a big reason to call. Just call for nothing, just because you dig the person.
After the show now, I didn't start dating right away, but I've been going out on some dates. But the one thing I do realize is I use the phone. There's the text going, hey, yeah, let's plan something. But I pick up the phone and call them and go, okay, let's plan the date and where are we going? What are we doing in voice? And we can talk about other things. Because on a text, it's not a conversation. It's just bullet points almost that you're putting out there. It's just 2 sentences. Or if you write too much, then it's just too much. So to hear the voice, and it just works out a lot better, I find. And I actually find that the people you call, whether it be my guy friends or the girls I'm going out with or whatever, that they actually appreciate the phone call more than a text. It's a special moment.
100%. And there's some people who say, oh my gosh, it's disruptive or somehow violating someone's space. I don't get that. You can pick it up or not.
Yeah.
But
you don't have to pick it up.
You don't have to pick it up.
I get phone calls from some of my buddies and I'm like, oh, he's a talker. I've got 5 minutes. I'll just send the text going, dude, I only have 2 minutes. I'll call you later. So I will call later. But yeah, there's some people I can't talk to you now because it's going to be a long conversation.
For sure. So before we get into other things, I'm wondering if you could share just maybe one thing that one of the guys gifted you in terms of something that was really perhaps meaningful or healing to you from one of the dudes from the house.
I'm going to say it was a couple guys. I mean, there's Dan, Jordan, Mark, Chalk that came up to me and were like, you're a good person. I mean, just the compliment, just to hear that. I always think I live my life in a certain way, and I'm a big personality, and I love. And they came up and they go, Keith, you are a big personality, but they were telling me, don't get lost in that. You're a good person. Somebody out there is going to be happy to have you. Go date. And I think it just helped me to continue to be myself, but to also open my heart and not hide behind the personality, but to let others see the personality and just let it be, even in my friend life, my family life, my dating life. Don't hide behind it. Just be me.
Wonderful. And let's talk about some things that block you from being you. There was that moment where you were sitting on, you're already cringing, and you look like a deer in the headlight.
I went to the producers and I said, this is what I want to do, because I came in the station wagon and I really love it. I love going to the beach. I love taking wine and cheese, packing up a big backpack, throwing down a blanket, bottle of wine, and just sit there and just talk. That'd be a great date. So they set it up in front of the house. But I got out there and it was she's all dressed up in her gown. I'm in a suit. And then you have all these cameras around. It's the first time I ever felt that I was really on TV and that it was a production, that I just couldn't be myself. By the way, I got a great edit out of that. It was even worse than it looked.
No way.
Oh my gosh. We just kept talking about food. She likes food and I love to cook and everything. We talked about food. I asked her, I said, if you were on death row, what would be your last meal? I mean, who asked the question?
The sexiest question ever asked.
Never. And if you've watched the show, there was Hannah Brown and Colton were on one, and and Colton says, okay, you go make a toast. And she was like, you used everything, a roll tide. And so that's an iconic moment in the whole Bachelor world. But that's what after this whole thing, I went back in and I told the guys, I'm like, guys, you don't understand how bad that was. And they're like, oh no, Keith, you're good. It's not that bad. When the show aired, I was getting phone calls from guys on the show going, dude, that was bad. That was really bad.
You had warned me about it ahead of time. You were like, dude, I asked the bed. And I was just like, I'll have to see. And I watched, I just looked at my wife and I was like, oh yeah.
I was just out of sorts. I just felt like I was on TV. I just didn't feel comfortable in the moment. And I just got lost. And instead of just being myself and just relaxing and doing what comes natural, I tried to make it more of a production. And that's just not who I am. And it just failed miserably.
Yeah, you got a case of the yips. And I'm wondering if you were going to give somebody advice so that they might not get the yips in that situation where they're doing something perhaps unnatural. I love the way that you describe the context. You're in a suit, she's in a gorgeous dress. They put down this fake beach and you're into a real beach with real ocean and cheese and wine and appropriate beach attire. Like, what if those aspects are removed from the equation and somebody's put in an unnatural position? How might they avoid the yips? What could they focus on?
If I had to do it all over again, you just have to embrace the situation. You have to actually accept that this is not real. Go have fun with it. I'm a big guy about having fun. Go have fun with the situation. Don't let it get in your head about, oh, this doesn't feel right. No, just make fun that you're sitting there in a suit on a fake beach. And
that's good.
Fun.
Lean into what is and just engage the levity.
Once there's a negative thought in your head about it, you can go down a rat hole, which I did. And it's just not going to turn out right. So,
and haven't all of us been there? Like, all of us have been there.
In real life, all the time. I'm in sales. I've sat and all of a sudden, I think I'm pretty good at what I do. But there have been sales calls where I've been on and all of a sudden my brain just goes blank and it was the worst call. I couldn't get back into the situation, all these negative thoughts in my head. And once again, the negative thoughts go in and the fun comes out of where you're at. It's downhill from there.
100%. So let's talk about something that really made me delighted that the Golden Bachelor, Golden Bachelorette series even exists. And that is when I first saw Gary, the Golden Bachelor, show up, I thought, how great. Because one of the things I hear about in my office is, we're in such a youth worshiping culture that people above 40 even can feel invisible, maybe above 50, whatever it is. Yeah. It's dependent on the person. But the invisibility factor, and Jonathan really spoke to that so beautifully when he lowered his mask when he met Joan. What do you think, or maybe even hope, that the Golden Bachelor and Golden Bachelorette is doing around ageism and romance?
All the Golden Bachelorettes that I've met and all of us Golden Bachelors, the one thing we talk about is we don't feel like we're 60 plus people.
Hell no.
I mean, our energy levels are high. We still have a good time. Most of the guys, we still think we're 30 to 35 years old. I mean, we're idiots. We're immature at times and we have insecurities, and it's okay to just be you, be youthful again. And I think what the show is showing is that I think they always talk about 50s as the new 30s or whatever.
Right, exactly.
50 and new 40. And it just seems like my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, when you got to a certain age, you just acted old.
Definitely.
And we don't act old anymore. We're going like, well, no, I don't want to sit at home and watch my kids grow up and do all the fun stuff. I want to go play pickleball with them. I want to go on hikes. I want to travel more. When they say you're over the hill, you hit 50, you're over the hill. There is no over the hill anymore. You're still going up the hill, having fun with it. I mean, there's no downward on your life. Go enjoy it and pick a hobby and do what you like to do with your friends, with your family, with your partner. That's what I'm hoping that the show is showing, is that we may be 60 plus, but we're not acting quote unquote like the 60s of long ago, my parents did.
What's so interesting is I've spoken with Dr. Mario Martinez. He's a professor over at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
And one of the things he's found in his studies is that our brain will actually believe what we tell it with regard to age.
Oh, yeah. You believe what you tell your brain in anything.
That's right.
You tell yourself that something's impossible, it's impossible. You're not going to do it because you've already talked yourself out of it.
Right.
You need to be positive. They always talk about, people say you'll write your affirmations, or you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say certain words to yourself to feel better about yourself. That goes across the board, no matter what age, no matter what you want to do, not just on your self-worth, but on physical things you want to do. Go work out, go get stronger. Like, I still have a bucket list that I want to go up Mount Whitney. It's the highest in the continental United States, the highest peak. You got to get a lottery for it. But I'm going to train for it. That's my goal. And I've got a bum knee, but put a brace on it and build up the muscles around it, and I'll go do it. So
yeah. And that sounds attainable versus I was to say to you, hey man, what I'm going to do, I have no practice surfing. I'm going to do a 50-foot wave. You would have to look at me and say that's suicide.
Yeah,
but so not obviously not anything, but right. But I could learn and train to do a 6-foot. I love the idea of you doing Mount Whitney. That's so cool. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. But again, it goes back into your mind. Once you talk yourself out of something, once you tell yourself that you're old, you're going to get old.
That's exactly right.
And I think that's, again, I'm going to go back, all the Golden Bachelorettes and all the Golden Bachelors. I think what we show on the shows and when we do our public appearances or people see us out on the street, we all have a positive attitude towards life. We all think that we're young. We all act young. Everybody has a great spirit about them, a great energy about them, and we're not old.
This is going to sound like an ABC after school special, but I'm going to ask you, so what have you learned?
I learned to be myself, embrace myself, and don't hide behind the big personality. Go be me. And there was a certain confidence that I gained about myself. I've always projected confidence, but I think after the show, I really am confident in who I am now, what I want to do, who I want to be. Even at work, the way I communicate is a little different, not much, but it's a little different. I'm a lot more honest with myself, with my girls. I'm more honest with myself about who I am and what I want to be.
Ah, beautiful. I love that. I love the idea of stepping more fully into who you are. And yes, Keith, you're such a likable dude. I mean, like, that is the move. In post Golden Bachelorette, what has life been like? I want to talk about all of the aspects, like people recognizing you, walking down the street, all the way up to possible dates. And because I'm sure some of the ladies saw you.
The first thing that comes out of it is when you're local, I'm out all the time. So everybody knew me. But now they know me. Everybody was like, dude, you didn't get a hometown. We were hoping you'd come here, to go play cornhole here or your little local wine bar here or whatever. So people now recognize and know that I was on the show. It's kind of weird. People will use the word, hey, our local celebrity. And I don't consider myself, it's reality TV. I was just myself. We're not celebrities. We're just normal people that did something out of the box. And that's one thing. I get recognized. But then when I travel by myself, I travel a lot. When I'm in an airport, there's usually only one or two people out of the thousands that are there that might recognize me. One time I had a flight attendant recognize me. But then when you're in a group, we went to the Kansas game and it was Chalk, Dan, Gil, Jordan, and I. When you're in a group of 3 or 4 guys, you're recognized everywhere because like, why are 4 guys hanging out together and we're having fun together? And then they'll recognize one of us and then they put it all together. So it's when you're at the group that you really get that, if you want to call it celebrity status, that's where you get. The other thing is, and on the dating side, via Instagram, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of DMs I got from women that said, hey, saw you. It's almost the same exact thing every time. Saw you on the show, thought we'd be a great fix. I have 3 kids myself, or I have 2 daughters. I'm a widow, or I've been divorced, raised my daughters, thought we'd be a good fit. Give me a call. And I don't really go into the DMs, but I have friends calling up all the time where women have gone to them going, oh, Keith, can you introduce me? So that's the way that I've actually gone out on most of the dates since the show. And again, I don't go out on a million dates at all. I've been out on a handful of dates. I know that the right time and the right energy will happen with the right woman, but it's the amount of DMs that you get, your posts, if you post something, the different likes, who's following you now, who wants to follow you. Back in my hometown in Indiana, Columbus, all of a sudden, I became much more popular there. People that I went to high school with coming out of the woodwork, wanting to be friends on Facebook. Oh. As I told my girls, it's weird more than anything that you're sitting there and somebody goes, I know who you are. At first, it's a great energy to have that. It's really cool and it puts you up on this little pedestal. But after a while, you're kind of happy just to get back to your regular life and just living life normal, raising my daughters, having a good time and being with my friends.
It's beautiful. You alluded to it briefly, but what did you learn about technology and what it gives to life, what it takes away from life? Because you had, I believe, for most of the day, you had no tech available.
No, we had nothing ever. So day one,
nothing ever.
Phones are taken away, no computers, no Wi-Fi, no TV, no radios. You really have no link to the outside world at all. All you have are the guys on the show. That's why it was so therapeutic just talking, because the thing you know the most about is yourself. You can talk about yourself all day long. And once you have nothing to talk about or there's dead time, people will start to open up even more. I've learned this in sales. Just listen. And if you listen, people will talk. And what do they like to talk about? Themselves. And you can delve into who they are, how they got to this point in their life, what were the obstacles along life, and you share with each other. So without all the distractions of all this electronics, that's what you get is you get a more personal, in touch aspect, brotherhood of the guys talking with each other. I think after the show, because you're so far apart from each other, then technology comes into play, the texting and the phone calls, emails that we pass back and forth. It keeps us in touch with each other. But in general in life, I'm even at fault for this. I'll be with my two best friends and I'll pick up my phone because I know that I was expecting a text from somebody else and I'll be looking for something. And they're like, dude, we were talking to you and you're picking up your phone. And are you really engaged? Are you really listening with your friends? And I think that's where everybody needs to just put the phone down and talk. When we were in Mexico, my daughters and I, for the last 3 years, and over Christmas, we go for a vacation. And when we sit down to dinner, the phone goes off to the side. You don't talk. I picked it up once, I think, and my oldest daughter, Ryan, ripped into me. He's like, really?
That's good on her.
Yeah, you put the phone down, you engage with the people that you're with. And I think people talk about that all the time. It's just such a distraction. But it does keep you in touch with people long distance, but you need to understand when to be on it, when to step away from it, when to engage in the real life, in the real now that's happening around you.
When you go to, let's say, I don't know, Banana Republic, and you're just about to make your purchase and the phone rings, they pick up the phone, but there's a person standing right in front of them who's about to pay money. And the person on the phone gets oftentimes priority. And it's just like, what is going on? And the same thing happens. And so tragically, what are we communicating to our loved ones when we are looking at our phones, texting while they're talking to us? Stan Tatkin, who's a couple therapist, a brilliant man, he refers to these entities as thirds. It could be a mother-in-law, it could be a child, it could be a pet, something that wedges its way between you and the person with whom you're talking or relating. And the phone has become one of the biggest, most common thirds, and it feels crappy. So it's amazing that you guys didn't have it. Were books available? Was music available?
Yeah. Books were available. Music, no. We just really shut out the outside world.
Damn.
So, wow. We had games, cards, backgammon, games to play. Guys brought books. Again, it wasn't on a Kindle. You had to have
That's right.
The one thing we did have, though, and it's different for the young kids, they don't get any phone time, computer time, anytime. But because we're parents, and we have kids and families at home, that we have responsibilities.
Right.
So they allowed us like every 2, 3, 4 days, whatever it was, if you needed to check in, if there was something important that you needed to check in with. My daughter had just gotten her driver's license and I needed to I needed to make sure that she got her driver's license. She was taking a test while I was gone and that she got on the insurance. So they allowed me to call and make sure that everything was just set at home. It's not burning down. Yeah, absolutely.
And there was Chuck's mom. And then, of course, in the previous season, there was Joan's daughter. So really, so in the event of an emergency, it would get to you. All right, my man. My final question, unless there's something I haven't asked that I should have.
Go for it.
So if you had the power to confer upon all humanity one insight or skill that would improve the lives of people, what would that insight or skill be? And how do you imagine it would improve people's lives?
It kind of goes back to that staying engaged. Stay engaged with your friends. We talk about the big word vulnerable on the show and the whole bit. Talk with your friends. Be vulnerable with your friends, especially guys out there. Talk about your problems with guy friends. Make the first step. You make the date with them. Take initiative. Life is too short to go and wonder what you could have done or where you're at in life. Enjoy it with the people that are around it and engage with the people around you. That's what I'd say in a positive way. Engage with people in a positive attitude.
Well, the beer is on me. I hope to engage with you in a positive way. It's so great to hang with you, Keith. So glad you put yourself out there, that you applied for it, got it, delivered massively. And every scene you were in, it was just like, there he is. So well done, my man. I'm just so happy that you have shared your good energy with the planet.
I will say one last thing is the best compliment I did get was from my 3 daughters. And they're like, Dad, when we saw you on the show, we saw our dad.
Oh,
so that was the best compliment that I got, that I wasn't somebody else or that I wasn't portraying somebody else. I was me on the show. And that was the best compliment I got was from my daughters.
100%. As a father of 2 boys, I would have been told if I wasn't or if I was. And I know they would tell you the truth.
Yes.
All right, brother.
Thank you, Adam.
This is Dr. Adam Dorsay thanking you for listening to SuperPsyched. If you know anyone who might like it or who might benefit from listening, share it. And if you like the episode, please hit subscribe.